What's up YouTube, Joe again, and I'm back with my 7-day miniseries, 7 Days of Alien. And today I'm going to conclude with basically a ranking of the films, and then I'm going to talk about my thoughts in the future of the franchise. And first off, I just want to say, really appreciate everybody who's tuned in and watched my videos. I just love this, any support that you can give me. I'm new to YouTube. I've only had this channel for a little over a month now. And so it's been a learning experience for me. You know, going into this mini-series, I knew I wanted to do something, but what I've learned from doing this is it is very time-consuming, okay? It is actually pretty exhausting, to say the least. To sit down and watch a film is one thing, but then to have to talk about that same film in a review can be challenging. In particular, the Alien franchise, the films in this movie, are very difficult to talk about. So time management becomes an issue when you're doing these mini-series. So you have the expectation that you're going to just keep pumping these things out and every day you're going to release a video. And I did that for the first few films, and then I realized that it is very tiring. And I wanted to put out the best product that I could possibly do. And to me, just releasing them every single day for 7 days straight wasn't really, it just didn't work. I found myself, you know, really crunched for time to kind of rewatch these films, and if I'm going to want to put out the best video, the best review I possibly can, I need to give myself a little bit more time. So moving forward in the future, when I do these little mini-series where I'm going to be reviewing a set of films, I'm probably going to start these things well in advance. I'm not going to be making these videos the day that I actually the day that I actually post them. I'll probably start maybe 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and then, you know, release these things day after day. That way I have enough time to really prep myself, really get a more in-depth review of the films. I felt the times when I was reviewing these movies that I was rushing myself just because I wanted to get these things out. And I ended up staying up late a few nights, was just exhausted, you know, between making these videos and doing my job, going to work every day. It just became very difficult, and it's a learning curve, okay? And I'm sure every person who's uploaded a video to YouTube, if you've made a mini-series like these in the past, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can burn you out. But I did enjoy doing this. I really love the Alien films, and it was good just to sit down and rewatch these films and kind of explore the franchise again. And when it comes to how I rank these films, actually, you know, after rewatching all these films, I think my thoughts on the films have changed quite a bit. Some of the films that I think I enjoyed a lot more previously might have moved down farther on my list, and some of the films that I previously had thought I didn't care for them too much might have moved up a little bit on my list. I guess I'm a little bit more open-minded to some of the flaws of some of the movies. And some of the films, my thoughts haven't changed. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump right into the ranking, share my thoughts on each film. This obviously isn't going to be a review, because I've already talked about it in the previous videos. But I just want to go ahead and rank the films and pretty much give a reason why they are ranked the way they're ranked. Alright, coming in at number 6 is Alien 3. If you've seen my Alien 3 review, you know that I am not a fan of this movie. I do enjoy it as an Alien film in itself, but I just can't get into this film. It's not a film that I want to watch, and I'm really eager to watch it. And I thought doing this mini-series, by rewatching it and trying to really study the film in itself, that I would have a greater appreciation for the film, and I just couldn't do it. It's still at the bottom of my list. I just cannot get into it. Now, I do see some good qualities in it. I actually do like the directing a little bit in this. I like the style of the movie. I like the fact that it's flashy. It's different than the other films. It takes place in a prison. But other than that, it doesn't really have much to offer, okay? It's really slow, and it feels like it just trucks along. And it's not fast enough for me to get into it. I get about 3/4 of the way through the film, and I end up getting sleepy, and I just can't make it through it. I enjoyed it a lot more as a kid, but as I've gotten older, it's not one of my favorite films in the franchise. So it ranks number 6 at the bottom of the list. Number 5. Very close to Alien 3. It's only a hair better than Alien 3, and that is Alien Resurrection. This one actually, you know, it hasn't moved up on my list, but I've got more of a fond respect for it after I've watched it again. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. At the same time, it's not a great film. Okay, it's got a lot of flaws. But if you go into Alien Resurrection with an open mind and actually just try to enjoy it for what it is, you know, at this point in the franchise, when you look at these franchises that have several entries, several films in the franchise, when you get to the end where Alien Resurrection was at, you have to go into the film not expecting much. You can't expect it to be better than the previous films. They've exhausted all ideas when they got to the point with Alien Resurrection. There really wasn't anything else for them to do, other than to just pretty much regurgitate what we already saw in the previous films. So, I mean, I give them credit in this film for trying something different. You know, we saw different types of aliens in this film. We saw the newborn, which was kind of ridiculous. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it more than Alien 3. So that's why it is where it is on my list. I just think for the popcorn value, the sheer value, and the sheer entertainment factor for watching this film is there. And it moves along a little faster. It's a little bit more fast-paced than Alien 3. So that's why it's a little bit higher on my list. All around, a decent film. Not bad, but not good, but certainly, you know, it's not better than the other films in the franchise. Alright, now moving up to my number 4 spot is Alien Covenant. Now this is the one that I most recently reviewed, and I think this film is very confused. I think the movie and the special effects is really... The film looks really good. It's a really well-polished movie. It had a slightly smaller budget than Prometheus, but, you know, it looks very similar to Prometheus. I mean, they had a smaller budget, but they made it seem just on the same scale as Prometheus. So I give them credit for that. This film it just lacks direction. It's like they're being pulled. It's like Ridley Scott is being pulled between two different fan bases. In my first video, I talked about Prometheus and how there's a split fan base. You know, half the fan base really digs what Ridley Scott brings to the table, and then you got the rest of the franchise that likes the James Cameron, you know, the blockbuster action aspect of these other films. And they just love the alien violence, the more darker side of Alien, where Ridley Scott's, you know, a masterful storyteller, okay? So, with Covenant, you can see that on full display. You see the fan base being tugged both ways. And Ridley Scott wanted to be respectful to both sides. And he tried to accommodate a lot of the flaws that people saw with Prometheus. And I think ultimately that kind of hurt him a little bit. I don't see any reason why he couldn't go with this film and make a few minor corrections, you know, change trajectory slightly, but still being faithful to the people that enjoyed Prometheus. I think that would have been the better approach to it. But instead, he gave in to the fans way too much. You know, it's like he did a full 180 on the Prometheus, you know, slapped in a couple things in the beginning of the movie to kind of appease the Prometheus fans, people that enjoy the Ridley Scott films. But for the most part, he pretty much abandoned the story of Prometheus, and what we got was a very confused Alien Covenant. But I do enjoy this film a lot. Even though I do enjoy Prometheus, I still see the good that he did to move this franchise forward with this next movie, with Alien Covenant. He did a great job. I think, with all being said, you know, the fact that he did move away from Prometheus, I think he did a good job with it. It could have been explained a little bit. It's pretty choppy at times. There's a lot of stuff left out. Like, we don't know what happened to Dr. Shaw and David that time between Prometheus and Covenant. They kind of explain it a little bit in this little prologue that's included with the 4K and Blu-ray releases. But if you don't own those releases, you're kind of left in the dark. And certainly, when people saw this in the movie theater, they're like, okay, what the hell happens to Dr. Shaw and David? They're just pretty much killed off in the beginning of the film. We don't know what happened to them. We kind of know what happened to David, but we don't know what happened to Dr. Shaw. So that was a little bit of a letdown. But other than that, the movie looks really good. It looks well done. I like the aliens in this film. I like how they had different versions of the aliens. You know, we got a neomorph. We got the xenomorphs that we've all grown to love. We've got different methods that these things can be spawned. So we've got these like the spore substance that some of our guys in the film, they become victim of it. And then the classic ooze, we all know that. But yeah, I enjoy this film. So that's why I rank it number 3 ahead of, that's why I rank it at number 4. It's better than the other 2 films, in my opinion. Alright, so moving on to number 3. Now, please do not hate me for this, because I know there's a lot of die-hard faithfuls to this particular film, and I do enjoy this film a lot. Okay, I love this film. And this one has kind of moved down on my list a little bit. Not in a bad way. It's only a hair behind my number 2 film. And that is Aliens, James Cameron's Aliens, 1986. It is almost neck and neck with my number 2 film, but I think it's kind of aged a little bit, for me at least, when I've rewatched it. It hasn't aged as well as when I first watched these films back in the day. I loved them. I mean, I love these films, and as I've watched them, they're just the thrill factor has kind of slowed down a little bit for me. Not to say it's a bad film, because I do enjoy the hell out of this film. It's over the top action. You know, there's a lot of cool one-liners in this film, and what I've noticed with this film, watching it now, and this is what I mean by it's aged quite a bit, is the stuff that they threw in there, the comedic relief, is just ridiculous at times. Bill Paxton with his little one-liners, you know, throughout the film. It's just, his Hudson character is just kind of annoying at times, to be honest. It's a little overwhelming. As a kid, I enjoyed it, but it's like, when you watch the film now, it just seems to kill the suspense at times. Like, you're getting into a part of the movie where it's suspenseful, and you're really getting into it, and all of a sudden, Bill Paxton Hudson just, you know, ruins the moment with his kind of really ridiculous one-liners. But other than that, I think this film is awesome. I do enjoy the action aspect of it. I enjoy the horror elements of Aliens more than I do the action-packed scenes. I see it more as a horror franchise than being an action franchise. And it's certainly a science fiction franchise as well. But I see it more as a horror sci-fi than it being a science fiction action franchise, if that makes any sense. So I've always enjoyed the horror aspect of it more. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this film. I love the characters in Aliens. I love the way James Cameron made this film. I think it was good. I think it was the right thing at the time when they released this film. They had to up the ante from Alien, and they did it well. James Cameron was the right person to direct this movie. So I give it an A+ for that. Now, like I said, this is just a hair behind. It's almost neck and neck with this next film. It was really hard for me to choose which one I preferred more. Don't hate me on this. But coming in at number 2 is Prometheus. Okay? This is where we get into some kind of... this is where we get into the battle between the fan base. And I'm sorry, but I will defend this film. I love Prometheus. I didn't think going into it, when I saw the trailer of this film, before I actually saw it in the movie theater, I didn't really think I was going to enjoy it. But when I sat down and watched this film, I love the hell out of it. I love Ridley Scott films. I love his storytelling. I love the way he builds suspense in the films. I love his character development. He has a lot of props in his sets that make it feel like you're with the crew of the film in Alien and with Prometheus. you know, you feel like you're part of the crew, okay? You feel like you're on the ship with them. They feel realistic. They feel believable. And that's what I enjoy with Ridley Scott films. And that's kind of where it gets a little bit of... It's a little bit higher on my list than Aliens. It feels more realistic. And granted, this film is a lot newer than Aliens, so it's... We won't really know if it stands the test of time until, you know, 15 years from now. Is Prometheus going to hold up? Is it going to get the same feel that Aliens does? Am I going to watch Prometheus and think, wow, this is pretty dated? You know, it's not, it's kind of silly at this point. I don't know. But I do know that me personally, and I might not share the same view as everybody else, but I enjoy the storytelling aspect of Prometheus, okay? I like the fact that we got something different. When Prometheus came out, we were pretty burned out with the aliens. At least I felt like there wasn't anything else for us to do other than kind of go back and explain some things. It wasn't a origin story by any means. It was his own mythology, and I dig that. He didn't try to explain the aliens. He tried to explain the engineers, and that's something that we'd all, you know, when we talk about the space jockey, it was mystified. It was watching Alien and Aliens. You know, we always want to know, who are these space jockeys, okay? And Ridley Scott goes back and gives that to us. So I don't understand what the hate is with fans, how that's what we wanted. We wanted to know, who are these space jockeys? What was their role in the Alien universe? And Ridley Scott gave us that. Now, it may not be what your thoughts were, but it certainly is the thoughts of a great deal of fans, and me in particular. I love what Ridley Scott did with these engineers, okay? So that's the love I have for this film. I enjoy the mythology that Ridley Scott created with Prometheus. And I'm a little bit upset that they didn't continue that with Covenant, but it is what it is. It's a good standalone film, and I do the hell of it. And last but not least, I'm sure you all know, it's the only film that I haven't reviewed to this point. Coming in at number 1 is Alien, okay? Now, I actually had, this is the crazy part, I actually had Prometheus ahead of Alien originally in my ranking. Alien and Prometheus were pretty much neck and neck, but I had Prometheus a cut above, just because at the time, Prometheus was the film that I had been seeing the most. I was, you know, when I would go on Alien binges and I would rewatch the films, I would just watch Prometheus and Alien Covenant a lot. So I think that's why I kind of had Prometheus ahead of Alien. But after rewatching Alien, and I sat down, when I first started doing this miniseries, I watched Alien probably about 2 weeks ahead of my miniseries, and I watched it several times. I watched it like 2 or 3 times to give myself kind of like a really in-depth review of this movie. I hadn't seen it in a long time, so I really wanted to focus in and give the best possible review of this movie that I could. And I must say, this movie has... It holds the test of time. I love this movie, okay? Everything about this movie just blows me away. It was so ahead of its time. It's crazy, okay? Like I said, the ship looks like it's lived in. The characters have this chemistry with each other, okay? Now, the crazy part about Alien is, you don't even know who the main character of the film is until halfway through. All the characters seem like they could step forward at some point in the film and become, you know, the lead character. It isn't until, you know, halfway through where Ripley kind of steps forward and is like taking charge, and she's like, I am the lead character, okay? She just has this presence to her, the way she, you know, questions authority, questions the captain, okay? Questions what the mission is. She takes that leap forward halfway through the film and it just dominates, okay? And from that point forward, that's the birth of Ripley. That's the birth of Ripley and the Alien franchise, and being such a dominant character throughout all the films, okay? We will never have another Ripley. They tried to do it with Prometheus. They gave us Dr. Shaw. You know, they've tried to do they try to emulate her in all these different films, and they can't. Ripley is Ripley. She is who she is. She's badass, and this film is Ripley, in my opinion, at her best. Okay. I just love this film. I'm not going to sit here and beat a dead horse. I love Ridley Scott. I love his storytelling, and I think this film was so far ahead of its time, and it really holds the test of time today. It's got a good mixture of a lot of different elements. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's not too silly at times. You know, you got little humor sprinkled in there, but it's real soft, so it doesn't feel dated at times. Yeah, all around great film, great cast, really believable. Can't say enough about this film. I love Alien. Alright guys, so that's how I rank these films. Like I said earlier, this is just my personal preference on how I view the films. I enjoy all the films, but everybody's going to have their own, you know, thoughts on the franchise and how they rank the films. And I respect everybody's opinion. Not everybody is going to fall into that, I like Ridley Scott or I like James Cameron. Some people might enjoy Alien 3 or Resurrection. I mean, it is what it is. It's all your own personal preference. And this is how I rank the films based off of how I enjoy the franchise. Now, some people have asked me on Facebook, on social media, how come I'm not reviewing the Alien vs. Predator films? Well, I do enjoy the Alien vs. Predator films. However, I don't see them as part of the original mythology, the continuity that we've seen with all the films. I don't see how they fit in with the continuity. And that's why I didn't feel like it was fair to rank them. Now, I will talk about the films a little bit. I do enjoy Alien vs. Predator. I like how it's got its own separate mythology, its own separate story. And as films on their own, they're good films. Alien vs. Predator is definitely better than Requiem, the second film. That one was atrocious. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that one. It's just, I'll get into that. But Alien vs. Predator, I thought was an all-around good film. It's a good popcorn blockbuster film. I remember when it got released, you know, the hype behind it. You know, there's a lot of comics based off of Alien vs. Predator, and it's kind of where they were going with this. There was a cult following. People just were dying to see Aliens, the two separate franchises, battling it out. And if you followed me on my YouTube channel, then you know I've talked about other similar franchises that have done these hybrid films, these crossover films, like Freddy vs. Jason, okay? That particular film in particular, you know, I don't consider it part of either one of the franchises. I see it as a standalone film. To me, that film is more Freddy Krueger than it is Jason Voorhees. At the same time, you can't say that it's a Freddy film because it's got Jason in it. So where does it fall? You can't really say, okay, it's a Jason film, it belongs to the Jason franchise. Same time, you can't say it's supposed to be part of the Nightmare franchise. It just doesn't fit into either one of them. And that's kind of how I feel with the Alien franchise and the AVP films. I feel like you can't put either one of those, you know, AVP1 or Requiem, you can't put them into the Alien franchise. It's just not fair to rank them amongst these other films because they don't share the same storyline. There's no continuity between the Alien vs. Predator films and the main stories. Okay, so I leave those out, but I will share my thoughts on them. I think Alien vs. Predator is a good film. I like the fact that they explore different mythology. So we get basically Antarctica is kind of, there's some underground temples underneath the ice in Antarctica, and every 100 years the predators come to Earth and they battle it out with the aliens. Now the aliens are down in this temple beneath the crust of Antarctica, and supposedly this is where the alien queen is at. And when the predators come to Earth to battle it out, they basically have to sacrifice a human to the alien gods, and that's what brings forth the queen to start releasing her offspring. So in this film, it happens to be 100 years later, 100 years on the dot when this ritual takes place. So we see a predator ship, and they send down 3 predators down to Antarctica. They got a team. human team going in to explore, well, what's this heat signal that we're getting from this spot in Antarctica. They go down to investigate, plus they determine that there's, all these ancient tombs that are below the surface, so they want to cash in. And it just so happens to be that Charles Bishop Wayland, played by Lance Henriksen, he sends the team down to go find out and kind of cash in. And I think the whole storyline is pretty cool. There's a lot of cool Predator and Alien action in this film. It seems very dark at times, so you can't really tell what's going on. That's kind of my biggest gripe with this film, is you can't really see what's going on because it's so dark. And I don't know if they intentionally did that because they weren't trying. Maybe it was a lower budget in some of the Alien and Predator films. So in order to accommodate the budget, they made it really dark, so you can't see a lot of the flaws in the special effects. Or maybe it's just the fact that they just filmed it really dark. I don't know. But it seems very confusing at times. It's so dark you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, I like the story, the origin that they incorporated with this film of the Predators coming back. I thought that was pretty clever. But it doesn't fit into the mythology of Alien. At least I don't think it does. So yeah, I enjoy AVP. When it comes to Requiem, okay, so that they're gonna. It's almost a given that if they're gonna make a sequel to AVP, they're gonna have to top it in some way. Just like with Alien, when Aliens came out, they're gonna have to top it. It's expected. So with AVP Requiem, it's just over the top. Action scenes. It's a blockbuster film. So they went over the top of it. And it just seems at times that it's a little ridiculous, a little redundant. The story's really dumbed down just to basically... It's like every other scene in this movie is just an action scene. There's not really too much story going on. I'm just not a really big fan of this film. I've only seen it maybe 2 or 3 times. I saw it in the movie theater, and I just remember leaving the movie theater just really unsatisfied with this film. I was like, this was not a good film. I didn't enjoy it. I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting them to build on the storyline of AVP, but they just didn't do it. It just was really boring. It just was a lot of action, and that's pretty much it. No storytelling. You didn't really know what's going on. Yeah. Now, there was some cool creature designs in this. Like the alien pred, thought was pretty cool. So the hybrid predator alien, I thought that was pretty cool. So it had a combination of the 2 different species. But other than that, I didn't really care for this film too much. So those are my thoughts on Alien vs. Predator and the sequel Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I didn't include them in my reviews because, to be honest with you, I don't see them as part of the franchise, and I'm not a big fan of the movies. I do enjoy them as popcorn films, but other than that, they're not films that I reach for quite often. Now, what are my thoughts on the future of this franchise? Where do I feel like the Alien franchise is going? Well, that's a good question. I thought I had all the answers a couple months ago, but it seems like if Ridley Scott's going to be on board with this film, as much as I enjoy Ridley Scott, he's not consistent. It seems like every interview they do with Ridley Scott, he says something completely different that contradicts what he previously said. At one point, he was saying that, before they even released Covenant, he was talking about the different films in this trilogy that he had planned, and how this was supposed to basically be it was supposed to be about, our human faith and these godlike engineers, and how they were, trying to bring the human race back to a more primitive form where they could, manage us, and that was pretty much his vision. And at some point there was going to be like a war between the humans and the engineers. And the engineers were going to use the aliens as kind of like a biological weapon to attack the human race. And I enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty cool. It intrigued me to kind of know what he was going to do with this. And then he jettisoned that idea of Covenant, which I still think that Alien Covenant was a pretty good film all around, even though, you know, he abandoned a lot of the ideas of his original trilogy. So now he's talking about, I think the most recent update that I had was he wants to talk more about the androids. So he wants David to have a larger role in this trilogy of his planned trilogy. And you can kind of see that with Covenant. You know, in that film, David and Walter are the center of the film. They're the center of attention. So we saw a more scaled back Walter, but we saw the prototype David who's malfunctioning. He's starting to have human-like characteristics. He's starting to really think for himself. He's showing emotion. So he's really in love and infatuated with Dr. Shaw. We see that at the same time. He's maniacal. He's crazy. He's developing his own species of aliens. He's like, you know, playing God in that film. So I think if you remember the ending of Alien Covenant, the way it ends, you know, all the crew are in stasis now. There's several thousand human embryos that are, you know, frozen, and they had plans with the Covenant ship to create a colony on a different planet, colonize a different planet with all, you know, these several thousand embryos that are frozen. Now David is the only one awake. Just like all the other films we've seen, there's always one android that's kind of overseeing the ship. So they all think this is Walter now. But it's not. It's David. David is alone on the ship while everybody else is asleep. And that's a dangerous idea. David. As crazy as David is, he brought alien embryos. He regurgitated these alien embryos at the end of the film and puts them in the same freeze box with the rest of the human embryos. So what are David's plans with these alien embryos? We pretty much know what he's going to do. He's going to experiment on them. So he's going to take some human embryos and maybe crossbreed these things, I guess. We're going to have to see. But I think the idea of David being a god is where, if Ridley Scott is still attached to this next film, I think that's where it's going to go. I think that they're somehow going to awake from their stasis. David's not going to know that they're awakened, but they somehow, maybe the computer's got some, you know, coding in it or something where it just freaks, you know, malfunctions and somehow releases them from stasis and without David knowing. So they come out of sleep and they try to battle David and kind of stop him from whatever plans he has. That's pretty much what my idea of the future would be. Now, there's also another kind of thought out there about the future of this franchise, and that is, okay, what if they bring in a new director once again to kind of reimagine the Alien franchise? Where are they going to take this? And I think what they're going to do is, to be honest with you, I've heard that they might try to go off of Aliens, the second film, and kind of ignore the story from Alien 3 onwards. Act like the prequels, act like Prometheus, Covenant doesn't exist, act like Alien 3 and Resurrection doesn't exist, and just go off of Alien 2. Kind of similar to what they're doing now with the Halloween franchise. If you all are fans of Halloween, they're basically just ignoring all the films that came after the original one. That's a possibility. They could do that with Alien. They could really make it off the first one if they wanted to. So if they brought back, well, that wouldn't make sense. If they brought back Ridley Scott, you know he's going to do a follow-up to Covenant. So if they're going to bring on another director, another story writer, there's a good possibility that they may just abandon the Prometheus prequels and just start over fresh and kind of leave Covenant the way it is. We don't really know what happened with David and these embryos. I think that would be the wrong move. I think we need to finish this trilogy. We need to tie in the Prometheus storyline with the Alien franchise. We need to bring them together. And then after that, if they want to bring in a different story, you know, make a direct sequel to one of these other films, I think that's fine at that point. But to abandon these films before they've concluded, before we saw it through, I think is the wrong idea. But there's always that possibility. And if I were to give my thoughts and say which one I think they're going to do, I think we're going to see an Alien Covenant sequel. I know it did very poorly in the movie theater. It didn't make very much money. And that's why it's been kind of in limbo whether they're going to actually do it or not, whether they're going to make a sequel. But we'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to be a significant amount of time before we get this. I don't think we're going to get it this year. I don't think we're going to get it next year. You know, it's going to be 2 or 3 years before we get another sequel to Alien Covenant. Just like the time difference between Prometheus and Covenant, it's going to take a while. We need time to be able to digest what happened in Covenant. And it was kind of funny because Alien Covenant just came out last year. And I'm still trying to digest that film. I'm still trying to really see what's happened. There's just a lot going on in that film. There's a lot going on in Prometheus too. So it's going to take me several more viewings to really appreciate that film and kind of set myself up for the next film in this series. But anyways, guys, I've had a blast talking about these films, rewatching them, sharing my thoughts on each individual film. It hasn't been easy by any means. This has been the most challenging thing that I've done to this point. I think I've gotten better with my reviews. When I first started, I was very tense and really nervous about, you know, getting in front of a camera and talking to people. And this has definitely increased. It's definitely helped me improve my confidence. Okay, I feel a lot more confident getting in front of a camera and talking to you all about the films that I love. And it was a learning curve, and I think that with future videos, when I do these mini-series in the future, I'm going to do them a little differently, but I'm definitely going to look back on this experience that I had with the 7-day mini-series and really just appreciate, you know, where I've come from and what it took to get myself to this point. And I really appreciate everyone for tuning in for all these videos. And yeah, that is the 7 Days of Alien conclusion, and I really appreciate you all for tuning in. If you liked this video, if you liked my previous videos, give this video a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. Any support is appreciated. And as a reminder, guys, I talked about this in my previous video, I am still doing my 100 subscriber giveaway. So, with that being said, I am giving away 4 films. I'm giving away Prometheus 4K. I'm giving away The Lost Boys on Blu-ray. I'm giving away the Scream Factory Collector's Edition of Misery. And I'm giving away The Shallows, a great, you know, date movie if you want to just hang out with your significant other. Awesome film. Girls will love it. Can't say enough about that film. But anyways, guys, those are the 4 films I'm giving away. They are all factory sealed, never been opened. And yeah, if you want to win those as prizes in my 100 subscriber giveaway, you need to do 3 things. You need to like the original video. You need to drop me a comment on any one of my videos from when I released that video until I actually get to 100 subscribers. So any one of those videos, you need to drop a comment. And let me know what your favorite beer is and what your favorite movie is. Maybe you don't have a favorite movie. What's your favorite franchise? I'm really interested to hear what people's thoughts are on their favorite films, because I kind of want some ideas for, you know, to give back to my fans, people that are following my channel, that like my reviews. I want to be able to review some of the films that people like. So drop me a comment, let me know what your favorite films are, maybe what you'd like me to review. And the biggest thing is you need to be a subscriber to my channel, okay? So once you do all 3 of those things, and I hit 100 subscribers, the day that I hit 100 subscribers, I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to reveal who the winner of my giveaway is. I'm going to take all the names that I've gotten, I'm going to put it in a random name generator, and the first name it gives me, you will be the winner, and I will reach out to you, I will get your address, and I will mail this to you, and I will expedite it. Okay? Alright guys, so that is it. That is the end of my 7-day miniseries. If you enjoyed it, I really appreciate your support. Until next time, guys, take it easy.